Okay, the Alter Rebbe is explaining the level of Shabbos. Shabbos is all the keiches of the world go back to the original place, like a person who rests from work. Like a person who rests from work. And then he started explaining that in order to have Shabbos, you have to do Torah Berev Shabbos. And he said, what is the Shabbos during the weekday? That's the level of Tefillah. What's the level of Tefillah? Malachi Elokim, the Shluchim mitzvahs are called Shluchim, and you do mitzvahs. And he says, that's the concept. The concept of mitzvahs is like Kibbur Shiranon, like the slingshot. Hashem comes all the way down into the Gashmistic world. Mitzvahs are connected to time and place. Otherwise, so it's seemingly very low. Nevertheless, that's what shoots up, that gets to you to the highest of levels. And that's what it says. I will put the nefesh of your enemies. And he said the same thing, by the way, just like there is in Teiv, you have in the level of evil, there's also the same thing. You throw Avedis, you fly very down. Even though the thing that looks like a physical object, that it seems that low things that a person steps on, it's similar to the concept of throwing of a stone. Look again, the slingshot. In other words, like this, even though a person might think, okay, it's not such a big Aveda. It's not such a terrible Aveda, what I'm doing, what's the big thing? Nevertheless, this shoots all the way far down, all the way like to the level of Aveda Zara. Like we learned many, many times. In reality, every sin is Aveda Zara. Right? Because you're going against Hashem. Hashem is present right in front of your face, and you're rebelling against Him. Basically, it's denying the existence of Hashem. So he says, Vinay, Aliyas HaMitzvahs, how do you elevate the whole concept of mitzvahs? Or Iker, the primary thing is Aidei HaTfilah. Through davening is a level that elevates Olim, the Malachim, the mitzvahs, Olim, go up through the davening. Because that, and it's an appropriate time. The time of davening becomes revealed and elevated. The essence of the Jew, in the neshamis, what is tefillah? Tefillah creates a relationship between Hashem and the Jew. Especially most concepts of davening is tefillah la'oni ki yativ. There's tefillah soshet, right? Moshe tefillah l'Moshe, the Medrash says tefillah soshet. But normally it's tefillah la'oni ki yativ. V'lifnei habayi ishpech sichim. The level of an oni is davening, which generally, again, davening is that. So he cries out his heart. It comes from the essence. It comes from the essence, and that reaches a very lofty level. This is what the Gemara says. That tefillah is now, instead of korbanos, we don't have a Beis Hamikdash. Ki kamei hakorban. Just like the korban. Just what's the concept of a korban? That you burn the korban, it becomes completely consumed in the godly fire of the Mizbeach. The same thing, you have to awaken the Avan Tefillah. Like a burning flame fire. Like a Mizbeach consuming the Nefesh Abamis. Ki Seido Eish Belev, Belisef, and to burn, Belachalis as a Nefesh Abamis. So what's the union of Tefillah? Like we learned many times, sacrificing the Nefesh Abamis. That's why it says tefillahs are instead of the korbanos. What was the korbanos? You take a behemoth, and the whole process, like the Rebbe explains, there is first you have to check out there's no moon. Then you have to do shchita. Then you have to do zrika sadam. And then you put the animal on the mizbeach, right? The bottom line is, you want to make a cheshbon nefesh. You have to make a reckoning, are there any blemishes I have? Then you need to shchita. Shchita is, the animal's still here. You just take out the life of the animal, the life of the enthusiasm of the nefesh habahamis. And then you squirt the blood on the mizbeach that represents, take the chayis of the behema and make it chayis of kedusha. Take the dam, put it on the mizbeach. And then you take the whole nefesh habahamis and you burn it in the fire of godliness. So he says that's why tefillah is instead of korban, because it's the same concept. So he says the elevation of all the mitzvahs is through the level of tefillah. And that's like he said before, that's the level of Shabbos. Shabbos is, Hashem put the koiches during the week, Hashem lowered the koiches into the world. Now you have to revive it, rest up, and bring the koiches back. That means you're elevating all the koiches from the world to Elokus. That's the level of kabbanis, of burning the world on the mizbeach of Kedusha. V'hinei it says in the Gimel. V'hinei it says in the Pasuk, V'nosnu b'nei kain eish al mizbeach. The Abnei Yana should give a fire on the mizbeach for min hazal. And the Gemara says, Alpha b'sheish yedim min hashemayim. Even though the fire came down from heaven, like the Gemara says, nevertheless mitzvah lahavi min ha'edit. You have to bring the earthly fire. If a fire came down from heaven, why do they have to bring an earthly fire? What's wrong with Hashem's fire? So why is this? Ki gam l'mayla, because even l'mayla, yesh bechinas arin. There's a level of arin, shen bechinas eish b'knesses, sheneis bechinas eish b'knesses Yisrael. Says that just like there's a base of Mikdash down here, there's Yerushalayim down here, there's a Yerushalayim down here. There's a base of Mikdash down here, there's a base of Mikdash up there. Obviously it's a spiritual one. And over there the Medrash says, and the Gemara says, Aaron, and Kabbalah says, Aaron is bringing karbonis of the neshamas. He's being makriv neshamas, meaning making neshamas closer to Hashem. And Yushushvina de Matrinusa, he's the accompaniment of the queen. And he's the Zion, the Rayan from the 7 shepherds. What do the shepherds do? Shepherds feed the flock. That means they're mashpia, life to the... So what is the Zion Ray mashpil and Gili Alukus is Barbamok and Neshamas Yisrael. He gives this Gilu into the source of Neshamas that gives it the strength down here to also accomplish what it needs to accomplish. What is the fire from above in the spiritual, in a personal level? That's Ava Tivis. That's the natural love that every Jew is born with. Ava Mesuteres. That's the fire that every Yid has Mumayla. But Hashem says that's not enough. You have to awaken your own Ava to Hashem, to His baininess and so on. Okay, skip 4 lines. That this doesn't dress itself in this natural instinctive love, doesn't affect directly the nefesh habahamis. Where do you see this natural instinctive love inflamed when it comes to Mesiras Nefesh? As the Alter Rebbe says in Tan, even the Kal Shebekalim, the lowest of low, is ready to give up his life al Kiddush Hashem. Why? The guy sins, and every sin's Avodah Zarah. Why all of a sudden he wakes up? He said, because all the other sins, there's a Ruach Shtus that says, say, I'm still Yid. It's okay, so I don't keep Shabbos kosher, whatever, I'm still a Yid. I'm still Jewish. Comes to Avodah Zarah, bow down to an idol, you can't make a mistake and say, hey, I'm Jewish. So then it's obvious. That's when the nefesh, the Ava Mesuteres, the hidden natural instinctive love that every single Jew has, that's when it wakes up. And then it wants to get out of the wick, which is the body. That's holding on to it. Shall have it, may allow like the flame that goes upward on its own, the dafka by Yisbarach to cling to Hashem. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining, just like in Karbonis, you have all this level of Eish min Hashemayim, Eish min Haaretz, and Aaron is bringing the Karbonis, so on and so forth. So in a personal sense, there's the same thing. We have the Ava Mesuteres, that's the Eish min Hashemayim. It has to awaken, stimulate the ava, the ava from the Jew, the ava that comes through his baininess or whatever it is to get that ava. But the mitzvah love, you had your shalamata, but you still have, even though you have this natural, instinctive love that every Jew possesses, you have to bring a shalamata. His bain is begdula safaya, by meditating into the greatness of Hashvat Shem. Kol chad from shura, every person on their own level, ulahal of libe v'nafshe, and to inflame his heart and his nefesh lavedus Hashem. Okay, that's what the function of the Jew. So again, the Alter Rebbe got into all of this stuff by asking a question about tshuva. Why is it one pasuk says Shabbos Shabbos and Hu lochem, and another pasuk Hi lochem, and he started going. You need to understand. And they asked the question also, Hashem Hashem Elach v'Nashuva, l'chayre Hashem's all over, so what do you mean return to me? Right? So he started explaining, I'm just going through how we got to where we are now in the Maamar. So the Alter Rebbe started explaining, you could be next to each other, but you could be back to back, your worlds apart. So Hashivenu means turn around. Yeah, of course Hashem's all over. But if you close your eyes, he's not there for you. You have to turn around and see Elokus. So then he got into rolling in the Shabbos. So Shabbos is, again, the Koich is going back up to Lamaila. And he says, but in order to eat on Shabbos, in order to have that Aveda, you need to Misha Torah Shabbos. You have to have the Aveda. What is the Aveda? So he says, Mitzvah Sekavere Shrana. What elevates the mitzvahs? That's the level of the Sulam, that's the level of Tefillah. And what is the inyan of Tefillah like Korbanos? To take the Nefesh Abamis and to elevate it, bring it on the Mizbeach of Kedusha. And he says, what meditation creates a strong love? Is kashem is beinim b'davar chodesh. It has to be a meditation into something new, something exciting. Kamei shanu reim b'chush that shakshereya b'davar chodesh. When you see something new, mispalme, then you become very effective. SO, same old is boring. Right? No excitement. New things, you get excited. The same thing Chazal said on the pasuk. Asher nechim etzavcha yom b'chol yom yobenecha kadoshim. Kasher yizbein in a mask when you meditate. Ki ba'em is chadosh and labkorim, every morning is a new creation. Right? That's why you say Meida Ani, because chadosh and labkorim, the pasuk says in Eichot, Rabba Minosacha. That's why we say Meida Ani l'fanacha, Rabba Minosacha. Umachadish b'choyim talmid b'ayse b'reisha mi'ayin le'esh. Uve'eschashech acheshech sholaylo. And then when the darkness of night leaves, it becomes Shel Yom, it becomes a new day. We said many times, the Rabbi explains, why did Hashem create sleep? It's a big waste of time. I mean, especially if you hold, like the Rambam, you need 8 hours of sleep a night, that means a third of the day you're doing nothing. So, the Rebbe says the explanation is because if there's no sleep, if there's no day and night, why didn't Hashem just create straight day? Because then it would be one long continuous bore. Like this, there's a day, then it becomes night. Now the night, the darkness goes away, now you have a new day. It's a new day, so then you can get excited about Torah mitzvahs and about doing everything. So he says, a person should look into themselves and say, when at night I slept, and chayusim is talik mimenu, my chayus left me. Sleep is a 60th of death. When you get up, you become a new creature. It's a new day. A new day means a new Aveda. With excitement, because it's not yesterday, it's today. By the way, it's easier said than done. But if you think about it, It's very logical. A new day, Chassidim used to go to sleep at night. They used to say in Yiddish, Morgen wird sein Gott anders. Tomorrow is going to be way different than today. Why was it tomorrow? Because tomorrow is a new day. The reality is a Mechadish B'Tuvi B'Choyim Tamid every second. Right? B'Choyim Tamid means not every day, the whole day. B'Choyim means the entire day. Shekeinu V'Mzayam Koitz Shekeinu Chayusum V'Ratzav V'Sheik. And therefore it's come and go. Day, night, time. The whole time is past, present, and future is the whole concept of Ratzav V'Sheik. Coming and go, longing, returning, that's what time is. When he sees with his eyes and how to understand that this is something new, his heart will become inflamed. In his heart and the shama will be put into this, like it says, tzark libam. And what is that in simple language? Achzar is panim, just turn around, because sheyesh erev upanim meguf. He says like this, just like there's front and back in the body, there's front and back in the neshama. What?
I don't think we know.
By the way, I'm sure there's a lot of things you didn't think that way. That's why you learn. Yeah? Even what he's saying now, what's the front and back of the neshama? He said, even before you realize this, so if a person thinks and realizes that there's a constant creation, so Hashem's always here. It's not shaykh to be far from Hashem. Elos, what's the thing? I don't want to look at you, so you turn around and face the other direction. Again, that doesn't mean you're not here. Hashem is here. The question is, do you want to look at him and see him, or you want to not see him? That's up to us. And he says, and he said, that's why in Tik Tik Nusach HaTfilah, Baruch Ata Melech HaElam, Pirish, Shekol HaElam Esnim Shechom Mebchinas Melech. Right? Melech HaElam, that everything in the world is only Malchus. Mesha calls Malchus, Chamalchus Kol HaElam, that's only Chitzenius Levat. That's the external level, Yas Nikra Lehem Shmeil Malchus Levat. And then we're saying, Umavakshim Sheyeh Baruch Ata, to bring down Hashem Elokei Yisrael Min Olam Ad Olam, meaning Sheyeh Baruch V'Yumshach. What second thing is, the Panim is that we're asking Hashem that should be visible. The Kol Me'elam Al Agili Asheyeh Me'elav Ki Hu Zeh B'Loshen Ata Neichach. Because Ki Hu Zeh simply means the guy is, the Merlins have made him a mixes. A guy comes to Bezin and he says, you owe me $100. He says, no, $50. Now what's the pasuk ki hu zeh? But it's interesting. It simply means ki hu, that is this. That is this. Chassidus explains in Ruchnius, who is he, Rochik. Zeh is Zakeli. He says, what is the avodah of a Yid to make from who? Zeh. Ki, he realizes, ki, that, who is really Zeh. It's just by I turn my back. But the reality is, it's all lukus. I know, ki hu zeh ata b'loshen neichach. Shayna sheyoshev alein b'chinas panim, that Hashem should react. He says, Aidei shuveinu paneinu elav. So by us turning our face to Hashem through His beingness, so then Hashem, like we say, Shiveinu Hashem Elocha v'noshuva, or Panecha, right? All these psukim. Okay, so this is the level of davening, that's the level of tefillah. So now he says in Daled, V'inei ksiv zashmi le'ilam. That's my, but that's zichri l'dorda, right? Zashmi le'ilam, that's zichri l'dorda. So he says, it says in Kabbalah like this, Shmi im Yud Kei, the word Shmi, which is Shim Mem Yud, which is 350, right? Together with Yud Kei, then it equals 365. Ki mitzvah says say nimshachim from the level of Vav Kei, which is Alma Dis Galia. I'll explain in a second. Umitzvah leisas and nimshachim chinis Yud Kei, which is Alma Dis Kasya. Okay, the Alter Rebbe at the beginning of the Maamar asked a question. But the Gemara says, Avar mitzvah says to Vishov, transgressive positive, as soon as you tshuva, you're forgiven. Leisasa, you need tshuva and you're Kippur. Right, that's what the Gemara says. So the Alter Rebbe asked the same question in regards to tshuva, L'chera, that means tshuva for Leisasa is harder, you need tshuva and Yom Kippur, and I say you're right away forgiven. Esideicha Leisasa, positive mitzvah pushes off a negative mitzvah if you can't do both. That means S is stronger. So which one is it? That's what the Alter Rebbe asked at the beginning of the mind. So now the Alter Rebbe is going to explain like this. Leisasa comes from Yud Kei. Vav Hei is a mitzvah sasei. Like the Alter Rebbe says in Perek Chavav of Tanya, Hanistaris Lashem Elokeinu. Nistaris come from Yud Kei. Ve'haniglois is Vav Hei Niglois. So the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya Perek Chavav, he says the good that comes down in a negative way comes in hidden good, it's all good. If it comes from a hidden good, that's Havaya Elokeinu, that's Yud Kei. Ve'hane, the revealed good, only comes from Vav Hei. And Yud Kei is higher than Vav Kei. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that when the person, gets the good from Hashem that doesn't look too hot, too good, should know it's a higher level of good than revealed good. So here the Alter Rebbe is explaining also, Leisase comes from Yud Kei. Asei comes from Vahanigleis. So he says,
365 days and a year?
no, 365 negative commandments. 365 leisas. It's interesting. The Rambam in his Akdam of Sefer HaMitzvahs says, what's the chedra of Ramach and Shasa? So he says, Ramach is the Ramach Evarim. But the Rambam, interestingly, writes, Shasa means every day of the solar year, don't sin on me. The Rambam connects Shasa leisas, and Mamish the last words of the Akdam of Rambam to Sefer HaMitzvahs. He says that is the level of every day, don't sin on me. Why the Shnasal of Shana, not Levana? But because the Shemesh has to do with the Goyim, Yidden are likened to the moon. So he's saying negativity is Goyishkeit. So therefore, every day don't sin on me. But the Arizal says that Shasa Gidin. We say in the Mishaberach, Ramach Evarim is Shasa Gidin. Those are the sinews, or the vein, whatever you want to call them in English. So that's the negative mitzvahs. Okay, so he says like this. V'hinei slate. Ba'avri alechem mitzvah sasi de'raisa. Van fel d'rabbanon. If a person transgresses a positive mitzvah, they blemish vavkei. That's where positive mitzvahs come from. Masha'en kim ba'avor alei sasi anfeim. He blemishes in yudkei. We're going to leave it here because it's... But, by the way, tomorrow probably won't be...